My favorite songs is ones that I write and I'm like, wow.
Do you feel that responsibility as an artist?
People liking my stuff because I'm switching it up to Chinese and it's exotic and stuff.
Give it up, Bohan.
Thank you.
You can only hear this version
Here.
on Gemini Soulcast.
My love for myself made me realize what I have to say is valuable.
Do you feel successful?
I certainly would like to do a lot more stuff.
Oh my goodness. All right,
We're
guys.
excited.
We're super excited. First of all, you may notice that this looks different from our normal place. But no matter what, you see the logo, you see the background, which means, hello everybody, welcome to Gemini Soulcast. I'm your host, Rob.
And I'm your host, Sin.
And we have a very special guest for today. Please give it up for the one and only. The legendary Bohan Phoenix.
Hey.
What's up? Happy to be here. What's up, y'all?
How you feeling?
Yeah, I feel great. Yeah.
It's a Sunday.
Also, like now I know the backstory of the name of the podcast. I love it so much better. You know?
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. Thank you.
What is your sign?
I'm a Leo.
You're a Leo.
Yeah.
August
I'm
birthday.
a Leo. But people have told me that my moon is a Taurus. So that's like what I actually am, supposedly. Like when I'm like by myself type shit. You know?
Yeah. Just
So.
like your moon is your emotions.
Yeah.
That's like
Yeah.
evolve.
Which I've like knowing myself, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Doesn't Taurus are usually workaholics too?
Not me.
He's a man. I just want to chill.
You're not in the studio all the time. You know.
Nah, I feel like if you have to structure your own time, like as a creative, and you don't have like a job to give you that like discipline, you kind of have to like have a good work-life balance.
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
I feel like so much of output depends on input, you know. So if I don't have life and I'm just crunching away in the studio, I don't know. If it gets stale for me, like I don't want to, you know, it's not fun.
I mean, it's kind of like if you're an artist, right? Like you can't just take inspiration from the studio. You gotta have inspiration from life and like going out, traveling, talking to people. Like, that's probably what inspires you too.
That's what I mean, like input. You know, I need like life input
Right.
for like output. You know, so for sure. You know.
So like for those who are like just because there's gonna be people who are on our podcast who are just getting introduced to you for the first time, right?
Yeah.
And what we can say is that you're a rapper, you're a hip hop artist. You were born in China, and then you immigrated here to the U.S. when you were 10 years old, right? And all you knew was just your mom.
Yeah.
At the time,
You mean in the States?
In the States.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and at least for me, I find that journey very interesting because I think especially at that time that you came to the U.S., you didn't know English. And then, so when was it for you when you were like, oh yeah, like hip hop is like something that I want to like have as part of my life and then eventually make it a career?
Yeah. So I've like dissected this over the years, looking back many times, you know. Like, so I came here, I didn't speak English. It was my first time living with my mother in a household with a white Swedish stepfather to be.
Wow.
Wow.
And I grew up with my dad left before I was even born, you know. So when I came here, I didn't speak English, but I also kind of dove into like a new like family dynamic at the same time because I grew up with my grandparents up until that point. But so during this process, my mom figured like a way for me to learn English and not have accent is to watch movies and cartoons and like kind of just repeat things back. That was something she had, like maybe a colleague had told her or something, you know. But so during that process of just like randomly watching movies and stuff, I came across 8 Mile. In hindsight, you know, like it was clear that he like just like who he was on screen was kind of like a weird like a male role model for me, you know. But also because like he's a story of like having a stepfather, not a relationship with his mom, you know, him being white, but in like a completely, you know, figuratively and literally a black world of like Detroit at the time. I found myself in the same little situation, kind of, you know, as much as I can reference. I'm like 10 years old, 11 years old, but as far as I could tell, I don't have a good relationship with my mother. You know, I have a stepfather that loses his cool all the time. I never knew my dad. So like in like trying to find some sort of identity,
Yeah.
like that was the identity that I saw and hung on to, you know. So then like it became about like kind of learning about his life and like how did he get confidence and find his community, find like friendship and support doing what this hip hop thing was, you know.
Right.
So for me, it was really more like a means of like survival in the beginning to kind of like get some confidence from doing something.
Right.
So like I was going to, before I was like fluent in English, I was going to middle school with like, I mean, you know, like a do-rag and like a
Yo,
fitted
get the fuck
cap
outta here. That's
and like
crazy.
Shady Limited like t-shirt. Like I was going to school with like, you know, all of Eminem's tattoo kind of like pinned on myself. Like,
Wow.
but yeah, I mean, like it was very much like the storytelling that I was gravitating to because he obviously had a completely different upbringing and experience in life than me, but somehow through his conveying of like emotions of disappointment, heartbreak, and you know all that, I was able to find solace and commonality in that, and that gave me energy and confidence.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
even in listening to hearing that, your story, which is I'm mind blown right now, honestly. But even the way that you speak about Eminem, like in the film, and you know, and that whole dynamic, and you know, you see in the movie how he's constantly like in his head.
Yeah.
Do you feel at times like you went through that, and like how do you ground yourself? Like how do you get to the point where it's not so chaotic, or at the time?
I mean, at the time, I don't know. I mean, hip hop was the way I was kind of grounding myself. You
Okay.
know, I had 2008. I was 16. Yeah. So me and Faisal, a friend of mine from South Africa, we had a group called Hip Hopaganda. It was like hip hop. We thought we were so clever. Yeah. And yeah, like you know. And then I joined a gospel choir because I wanted to be closer to it. Like once I like was able to zoom out of Eminem and zoom out of like you know the people he directly referenced, like the Tupacs, the Daddy Kanes. Like I was like, oh, this is black music. Oh, I want to get closer towards black music. And the only thing I had access to in the suburbs of Boston immediately was the high school gospel choir. You know. So I joined a gospel choir, and that was when I got to rap on stage for the first time. Because my choir director was like, I went to audition. He's like, you can't really hold a note, but I heard you like to rap, and if during our quarterly school concerts, you're willing to write a verse about God or love, you know, then you can like hop on stage and do your verse, and we'll back you, you know.
Whoa.
So that was kind of like in this like really religious and kind of setting was like my first live performance rapping. Yeah.
That's like
Yeah.
the movie Sister Act 2. You ever see Sister
I've
Act
not seen
2?
Sister Act 2,
In
no.
that
I've seen the first one. I haven't
You've-
seen the second one, but
the
yeah.
second one, they had
Yeah.
that. Where it was
It
like
was
the
rapping.
choir, and then they
Yeah.
had the
That rapper?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they had them go
What?
on stage and rap.
Yeah, I mean, there's like some parent like from high school uploaded a video of me to YouTube that I can't take down. It was literally like me in long hair and like a tuxedo rapping,
That's crazy.
you know.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, like over
That's
the
amazing.
yeah,
That's
I think you know to answer your question, back then what grounded me was just like this pure obsession with rapping. I knew every one of you know Eminem songs and a whole lot of Tupac songs before I was really like fluent myself in English.
Dang. Wow. Do you
yeah.
have like a top 5 that are alive?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like everyone has a top 5. Duh.
What's your top 5?
I mean, like, but I feel like everyone also sits this with the, you know, okay, like, it could all change any given time.
For sure.
Yeah.
For
You
sure.
know?
Yeah.
Rappers, you said?
Let's say
Right?
let's say rappers. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, Pac.
Right.
Pac like taught me how to be a person. You know, like that's the thing. Like for me, his influence was not just the music. You know, he actually talked like one thing that he talked about that he referenced Gemini. Right? He's like, it's even worse for me because I'm a Gemini. He says, but everyone has this duality in them, and it's the people that only show you one side you got to be careful of because they're afraid of being themselves. You know, they're afraid of that side of themselves. You know, and I was like super young, and I was just like, I remember that was like a first moment of like understanding like a big thing about the universe or something. You know, I was like, oh shit, like, you know, like a big real, realization. So Pac, Eminem, just cause like without that avenue, I wouldn't have, had access. Lauryn Hill.
Nice. Oh, I love Lauryn.
Even though in recent years I've heard that a lot of, I think Robert Glasper, I think there's other people like in the scene at the time, in this industry now, they're talking about how she stole a lot of music from the people that was in the studio around her, because they were like, if she was that nice, how come she never made another one, But I don't know, maybe that's just people hating. But like, so for sure Lauryn Hill. I like Danny Brown. I think Danny Brown is so fire.
Yeah.
So underrated.
Yeah.
Actually, the heads know about that Danny is nice. And honestly, like, just yay, like, yeah, like.
It's like old Kanye or new Kanye?
Honestly, anything before Vultures, I can't rock with.
You can rock with that. Yeah. I understand.
Yeah, or Donda, really. Wow. Yeah.
You mentioned how Pac really like shaped who you are as a person.
Yeah.
Right.
I have his poem he wrote when he was in high school tattooed on my arm. So after he died, his mom released a whole lot of poems that he wrote as a high school, because he went to like, this, right? He went to like Baltimore Performance Arts Theater. So this poem was called "What of Fame," and he wrote this when he was like 19. What of fame? Everyone knows your face. The world screams your name. Never again are you alone. And it's like, be careful what you wish for type of shit. Like, and he had that foresight at 19. It's like, yeah, like once you gain the world, you belong to the world. Right. Like, do you want that?
So then, when it comes to like your own music, right? I feel like a lot of what you write is also very personal.
Yeah.
As well. So if we're gonna look into even that poem and what that means, like, how do you navigate like how much you want to share to your fans and to your listeners, and then how much are you like, man, maybe this is not something I can necessarily talk about yet?
I mean, honestly, for me, like, nothing is off limits. For me, the people that I grew up on and shaped me, they spoke to only what they knew, and a lot of it was directly influenced by their life. So much of the rap that I grew up listening to, was boldly commentating on what's happening around them. It wasn't a sexy thing to do, like it wasn't like something that people wanted to hear in the clubs, but they felt the urgency to do that, to talk about the things that people didn't really want to talk about, like Tupac making a song called Brenda's Got a Baby about right, like a teenage girl that gets raped and impregnated and shit. Like, no one was asking for that. Who was asking for that? Nobody, right? But it wasn't sexy, like. So for me, I feel like as I grew up, as I'm like getting older, whatever, I find less and less of that, in hip hop, which is fine. Hip hop is a young man's sport, right? So it is whatever state it is, that's exactly the state it is supposed to be in, But I miss that. And because I grew up on storytellers like that, I naturally just found that to be my style as well,
Right. So then, how have you changed as an artist? Because when you talk about how hip hop has changed and it's a young man's sport, but you got into it also when you were pretty young too.
Yeah.
What was that change like from when you first started to kind of your perspective of it now in your own self as in your artistry?
Yeah, when I first started rapping, I definitely was just trying to imitate people that I thought was nice, because I think part of me, wanted to impress the people around me how well I can rap. So in the beginning, 2008 to 2010, 11, I was just trying to sound like, punchlines and metaphors, and I be in New Rican, like just trying to impress people with wordplay.
Like New Rican Poets Cafe?
Yeah. That was like that, and Apollo Amateur Night was like where I got a lot of practice on the mic.
Wow.
But like I was just trying to impress people, but then at some point I was like, I'm never gonna be as like nice with the metaphors as like Eminem or Wayne, you know. So what do I have to offer, kind of thing? Because I'd get off stage after like a nice 16, someone would come up and yo, that was dope, but that was it, you know. It was like, oh, that was a cool like card trick, and now I forgot about it, you know. But once I started to kind of put more of my own story into it, I felt like there was more of a dialogue between me and the rest of the world, you know, whether it's someone listening or just like me feeling right about it, you know, after the music is out there, something just feels right about it. Yeah.
Did you have like?
Oh, my bad. I didn't. That was half the answer.
All right, go ahead. Go ahead.
So I started. Yeah. So that was the part of the change, was going from like just trying to like sound like people that I thought was impressive to really being open to being vulnerable and putting in my own story. Because if Eminem wasn't rapping about his own story, there's no way I would have gotten inspiration and saw the truth that like, oh, like despite our our looks and whatever, we all going through the same shit, you know, and that's, you know. So and then it goes from there to, okay, so that's the shift from like imitating to, okay, expressing some of my truth. But then once I found some like people liking my stuff because I'm switching it up to Chinese and it's exotic and stuff, I couldn't let that go. That became a crutch. That became like every song I make, half of it needs to be Chinese, half of it needs to be English. Because now, if I don't do that, I'm not going to be able to stand out. Yeah, that was my identity now. You know, I want, like I want people to know. You know, like I'm. But then like that resulted in me not really being able to like come across a point with the whole song. Because unless you spoke both languages, like you really only understood half of it. You know. So I realized I had to stop exoticizing myself for like the blogs and shit, you know, like I had like 2017 Bandcamp was like real big, you know. It's still, Bandcamp is still relevant, but 2017 was real big, and like it wrote an article highlighting my song, called me like an Oriental trap rapper or whatever. Like in hindsight, it's so cringe, but at the time I was like, man, I'm on front page of Bandcamp. Yeah. That's great press. That's awesome, you know. So that's another change I think over the years I had to, and like that's why this new project and the Great Wall, like really like it's all pretty much English, you know. Right. Yeah. So.
Damn.
Did you have it like in your mind too at that time when you speak about like, I wanted to impress people? Did you have it?
Oh yeah.
Like I want to just get signed, like let's say, or do you prefer being an independent artist?
Yeah, I mean, getting signed never really was like a big motivator for me. I think for the longest, trying to impress my best friend Zach was like the motivation. He to me, he goes by Jackery. His music is so fucking good, and he's the first one that also ever called me out on being whack.
You need to have friends that are like that.
I mean, by far, he's the only one in my life that has ever like lovingly confronted me about my work, and it's even when he confronted me about it, like, I mean, we were so young, I don't know how he had the insight to take the risk in our friendship to tell me the truth like that, because at the time I definitely didn't take it well, like, because I started rapping when I was 13 years old, and by the time I met him in junior year in college, so many yes man friends had made me feel like I was like the shit. I just like ready to blow up any minute. And then when me and him moved into an apartment in Lower East Side, he'd be making music and I'd be like freestyling next to him for hours. And one day he just told me, bro, I can't do this no more. It's like, yeah, like you don't have any pocket, like you're just like you're mute. You're like he's like, yeah, I don't know how to flow. He's like, yeah, you're just like on beat. You're just like a metronome on beat. It's like mad boring. There's no like, you don't know how to use the space. You don't know how to be behind the beat. You don't know how to feel the beat, like. And then he like started playing me D'Angelo, started playing me like all the good shit that my favorite rappers was listening to, And so yeah, so like I think I was trying to really impress him. I did eventually sign a record deal with Warner, but that was purely because I couldn't get back into China to see my family during the pandemic. And then Warner China was like, yo, if you sign with us, we can get you in. So that was the only reason I signed like a 1 year, 1 album deal with them. Wow. But yeah, other than that, I've been on my own.
What do you feel like has been the difference.
But if Drake comes knocking, you know, like look, like
the OVO is just
yeah,
like
yeah. No, not Drake.
Oh, Drake.
Dre,
Oh,
Dre,
oh,
Dr. Dre.
okay,
Yeah.
I was gonna say,
Yeah.
Drake's already like done for at this point.
Yeah.
You're mentioning how
I just don't think we align.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah,
In
the
terms
music.
of like,
Yeah,
music-wise. Yeah. You're more of a Top Dog Entertainment,
Yeah.
Interscope
Sure.
type.
Yeah.
I love that. You were just mentioning how like you couldn't get back into China at that time.
Yeah.
So that's why you started with Warner, right? So you've done a lot of work in China as well as in the States.
Yeah.
What do you feel like has been your experience, if there's any like differences or similarities of like touring and then like making music and the reception of it in China versus in the US?
Okay, I certainly would like to do a lot more stuff, you know, given the fact that like I feel like I've had some, you know, really lucky moments, but I feel like I still have a lot of stuff I want to do. I just want to say that.
Right.
Because I did get trapped in that like mentality in the past where I'm like, oh my, you know, I've done like some NBA halftime shows, you know,
Yeah.
I've got
Then
my
as
music
a
and stuff,
Brooklyn Nets,
and movie
yeah.
and stuff, and like that like kind of fucked me up, you know, thinking like that, you know,
It's
like
more like what you had envisioned success to be like, and then once you got it, you're like, ooh, that's not really what I
that's
thought.
part of it. I think that I had that realization years ago. That's why I started like finding, you know, value in other stuff like books and relationship development, you know, like going from never making money to making money and getting paid, and then realizing like, okay, I'm just as unhappy on a day-to-day basis on a lot of, you know, interpersonal stuff. So I had that realization, you know, but what was the question before that?
The question was like that difference in
Right.
Yeah, like from like the Chinese market versus the US market.
So I mean, we just celebrated 50 years hip hop like a couple years ago, right? So
recently.
so in China, the popularity of hip hop really took hold in 2017 through a reality show that was kind of like that Cardi B show.
Rap of China.
What was that Cardi B?
Rhythm and Flow?
Yeah, that one where
on Netflix.
Kendrick's cousin got found. Right?
D-Smoke.
D-Smoke, that's right, yeah. So, but a show like that is what took hip-hop from underground to, like, mainstream overnight in 2017. Like, artists that were doing, like, 200 tickets were doing now, like, 10,000 tickets in, like, one summer, you know?
Wow.
So, and you know, so hip-hop has been in China underground right around, like, late 90s. You know, there's heads out there digging, and they're like going out of their way to find shit, you know, like find hip hop, you know, tapes and vinyls in like, you know, Y2K era China. So those people, I feel like they had really laid the foundation for the interest for this big TV show to come in and see these things bubbling, and that's why they're like, oh, you know, we can blow this up. But the reason it was bubbling in the first place is because the foundation set by the earlier guys. Right. So, you know, I think because the scene was introduced to the genre as like a commodity, as like a very commercial way, right? Like, inevitably that took hold as kind of the overall vibe of things. So eventually everybody's goal now is to go on the show and blow up on the show, you know? And there's really there's no concept of like, you know, everybody like looks, this idea, I want to be a rapper because I want to be famous and be popping and cool like that, blah, blah. Right? So like there's very few people a very small amount of people that are entering like the creation of music and hip hop and the culture of it with the mindset of like, there's something I want to express, or like this is something that gives me an identity, or, you know, without external validation, just me, the fact of me participating in this music and this culture gives me the energy, you know. And if I get a validation and fans or whatever, that's a bonus and that's great. But very few people think like that out there, you know. And I think more people probably think like that out here. At least, you know, yeah, like generalizing. You know, I think most people here have this ego of like, I want to be a dope artist. You
I
know,
want to be
like,
the best.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
You know, it's like I don't care if I make money. You know, I just want to be the best. But in China, a lot of artists, a lot of young kids that start to be a rapper, the intention is completely opposite. It's like I want to be famous and I want to make a lot of money. You know, so that results in two completely different environment of creativity. You know.
Yeah.
Do you feel like there's do you feel maybe I'm also generalizing too. I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this. Do you feel like, say, like in the Chinese market of like hip hop, do you feel like there's a lot more like exploitation of like black culture in China and in Asia, or do you feel like there's like an actual like study of it, like, okay, like I'm gonna appreciate like the history of it, like why? Because hip hop at the end of the day, the roots of it in its purest form is about like self-expression and revolution. It's like calling out the institution. And when you have something like China, where it's like that could be very easily censored, you know. Like, so do you feel like now it's just more about like, oh, we're gonna exploit like black culture and like hip hop for the sake of fame and money?
Yeah, I think if you just look at it in a vacuum, that's what's happening. You know, but it's not a vacuum, right? And that's the attitude that's how I perceived the scene when I first went back there in 2016. But I think in order to exploit something, that kind of comes with like this intentionality behind it. You know, I know this is wrong, and I'm still going to do it. But for a lot of kids growing up in China, I mean, a lot of people here growing up here don't get the full picture of the mistreatment of black people by America, right? So how do you expect some kid growing up in a third-tier city in China that heard hip-hop through an NBA game and fell in love to have the same awareness as somebody that's supposed to have here, you know?
Right.
So that's kind of like my realization of it. Because when I first got there too, I went back there from New York, right? Like, I'm like, yo, these people out here with dreads, like, neck tats, face tats. I'm like, y'all don't even know what the fuck is going on. You know, like, y'all don't even know where this come from. Y'all don't know who
Chinese kid.
Y'all don't know who Kool
from.
Herc is. Y'all don't know any of this. Y'all, I'm like out there like feeling all superior and like I know better and blah, blah, blah. But like that just resulted in like a super dissonance between me and the rest of the scene there, you know, like, and like for them, that is as naturally developed of a scene as they could have gotten, you know.
Right.
So, yeah, if you look at it in a vacuum, they are exploiting it, you know. But if the idea of exploiting it is backed by a lack of knowledge of really what hip hop's history is, I mean, you could say that about all the rappers, young rappers here today.
That's true.
You know, like, you know, technically they should know better. So maybe they're exploiting it in a sense even more than kids on the other side of the world that never had a chance.
Yeah.
You know?
I feel that too because like I mean, to your point is like there are also American rappers, like young rappers now who they just want to blow up.
Yeah.
And it's become almost like this like it's like a social media rapper.
Yeah, yeah.
In a way where it's like you have the title that's like this clickbait title and they're gonna rap about something, but it's not in the form of like where hip hop comes from, which is with love and like from the soul, and is a lot of it feels almost like gimmicky in a way.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what I'm saying earlier, right? Like I think hip hop is exactly where it's supposed to be because otherwise it wouldn't be here. Like like I'm sure people was looking, like the older heads was looking at Eminem like crazy, you know?
Probably,
like what the fuck? Like this kid is single-handedly ruining this shit. Obviously there were people like that understood it from like the artistic point of view. Yeah. But I'm sure a lot of people was like, yo, like this is not what hip hop was about, you know? Like or like, you know, I can't come up with other examples. He just like, you know, the most extreme. So like I feel like for us to look at hip hop now and be like, it should be another way. It should be any other way besides it is now. That's wrong on our part, I think. You know.
Nice. How do you? Okay, so then.
You know what I mean? Like
I see
right?
that because
like,
that's like a judgment factor of like, because I feel that would be the same thing 10 years later where like you know, as we get older, maybe that was just good back then, and like
Yeah.
you don't even look at it where it is now, and it's
Yeah.
like, well, and these kids who are young now, they're probably gonna look at the future generation, and be like, oh, well, that was whack. Like what we
Yeah.
had was great too. Like
Yeah, I think so. I think that's
Yeah.
I think that's the big part of it. Yeah.
But how do you then, as an individual artist, then like navigate all of this, like whether
Yeah.
it is the industry or how you like put yourself and your artistry, like do you feel like you have to, because I feel like at least for me and other artists, right, like we have to be like, well, how do we make money, like how do we get to that level? Maybe I
Yeah.
have to follow these types of things. Like when do you
Yeah.
I feel like it's a balancing act, right, of like your authenticity as an artist and then
Yeah.
like what you can serve the market, you
Yeah.
know?
I mean, but like, does the market want the same thing again and again and again and again and again?
No,
You know,
definitely not.
does the market really all the time know what it wants before you give it to it? No, you know. So you'll never know if you don't take that leap of like offering what is truly unique, which is your personal experience. Like that's the only thing we have to offer that's unique. There's no new ideas under the sun. There's no new flow. There's no new, you know, nothing like that, you know. So, but like most, you know, most of us might be like, well, who cares what I have to say? You know, I'm nobody. You know, maybe if I'm famous, then people will care about what I have to say. But for now, let me just get famous first, you know. Okay, let me look around what works to get famous first. All right, let me just do that. But then you just end up with a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy of what works in the
Right.
moment, you know. And then the next thing that works because it followed the other thing works a little less, and then the next thing, a little less, and slowly everyone is doing the same thing and to no result, right? And no one is willing to suffer the lack of recognition for years first to develop their own conviction in that they have something to offer,
Right.
you know. But if you don't have the years of conviction to develop that, like, of course you're gonna see like what works and be like, let me just do
You wanna
that.
copy that.
Yeah, because we can't delay gratification, you know.
Mm.
Like, and to me, delaying gratification is the point of this whole journey. You know, the suffering of this journey that I've been on has made me who I am, not the victories. You know, and like Rick Rubin's book, it's full of platitudes, but one of the best things in it that he says is, artist's masterpiece is not their best albums, not their best painting, it's not the best stretch of their career. Artist's masterpiece is how they live their whole life, you know. And that's something that I just stand by, you know. I think everything you do feeds into everything else that you do. How you do one thing is how you do everything else. If you consider yourself only an artist when you make music, and other times you're just like this dude, whatever, you know, you haven't, your values are not the same as when you make music. You're like living like a dissonant life,
Yeah,
you know.
I think you have to. It's got to feed into everything that you
Yeah.
do. You know, I had that issue as an actor before, where I placed so much of my own value into whether or not I booked a role. If I booked a role, I'm so happy, and I always tell people, oh, I'm an actor. But then that became a crutch
And the
because
limits.
I limited myself
And he
because
limited himself.
yeah, I did because I was very unhappy because then I didn't have a good relationship with my parents or like with other people, and like I just dedicated everything to this idea.
Yeah.
Versus like having to step back and be like, oh no, I need to take care of my personal life. I
Yeah.
need to take care of my relationships. I need to take care of my health. Even something as simple as that, because then that will always feed into the artistry in that way. But you kind of have to go through those like pain points
Yeah.
and realizations.
And like at least, you know, there was grace shown to you somehow that you were able to catch yourself. You know, a lot of us don't get that grace, you
Right.
know, and that's not something, and grace is not earned, you know, it just comes. And like if you can like pay attention to it and like listen to it, then good for you. But a lot of times like grace comes and we'll just ignore it, you know, like, cause like a lot, like in your example, right, for you to realize you were doing the wrong thing, first have to admit like, damn, the way I've been living my life is wrong. And that's hard to say to yourself.
Yeah.
You know, and then after that, accept, okay, now I have to work to do, you know, before I get to do the things that I really want to do, you know. And like a lot of people like turn away at that point. They're like, nah, I'm tripping. Like, let me just continue this like dull death that I'm comfortable with. You know.
I love this. This is.
I think it's also listening to your intuition. Me as a psychic medium,
Yeah.
I'm always gonna say like, I listen to that. Like as opposed to when I was younger, you know, I wouldn't. Like I would go against it, or I would second guess myself with everything. And then once I recognized my gifts, like everything that I had, I was like, oh no, this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
So now I don't look at my past the way that I used to. You know, like I was like, no, because I had to go through all that to get to here. You know what I'm saying? And
100%.
listening to you with your story, like, do you feel successful right now, or do you feel like you still need to go further to feel that?
I mean, well, first of all, like that intuition you're talking about, that's the grace that I was referring to, right?
Okay.
Like,
Yeah.
because like that's like like something is giving you that little message.
Yeah.
Right.
that
We don't
little
know
nudge.
where that's
Yeah.
coming
Divine.
from, right? Like
Divine source.
divine people say like the interface between you and God is your subconscious, right? Like all these messages come from your subconscious. Like, you know, that's grace, you know. Okay, and then what did you ask? I just love that.
Successful.
Like-
yeah.
Oh yeah, I mean like hell yeah. Are you kidding me? You feel like tell like 13-year-old Bohan like yo, you're gonna tour. Yeah, the music's gonna take you back to your
The motherland and
back to the motherland. You're gonna explore that with people, you know, that you love, and like you're gonna make money from this, and like you know you're gonna do all these cool things and meet all these people. Hell yeah, you know.
I love that.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
you know, I think yeah, I think for me like the stuff that I want to be more successful at again is more non-career related stuff, you know,
love that.
like
I love that.
and ultimately I feel like that's the more sustainable happiness, you know. I think like for me music is a part of me, you know. I think for the longest time that was all of me, and that it was kind of a miserable existence. Yeah.
I feel that.
Yeah.
I love how like I feel like you're a very spiritual person, my guy. Like you really are.
I feel like we all have our own like okay, so like we're all religious in our own way, right? We all have different beliefs that shape how we view the world. So we're all spiritual in one way or another. But like yeah, I have been on like a very like healing journey in realizing a lot of stuff has to do with spirituality. You know?
When was that something that did you have like a moment?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about that.
I think there might have been many moments of grace, but I just ignored it all, you know, because like laziness kicks in, you know, and I'm like, yeah, it's a lot of work, you know. But last year, after the end of like, I think the first relationship where I felt seen and appreciated and encouraged, after that terminated because of my lack of willingness to grow in that relationship, after that I was like, well, I really tried my hardest in that relationship, but it still didn't work out. I need new information, you know. I like my world, the map of the world that I have is not working, because every time I follow it I end up losing stuff that I love, you know. So I needed new information to shape my new world map, new map. And that's kind of like what motivated me to go on this journey. Yeah.
Spiritual like pilgrimage to yourself.
Yeah, like so I mean you know, so Bell Hooks, you know, in All About Love talks about she was never able to love because she didn't there was never no definition of love that like that made sense, right? And then she said like, oh, that book I gave you actually.
Yeah.
She says
Road Less Traveled.
Yeah, this book Road Less Traveled by this guy named Scott. He talks about love is the willingness to extend oneself for the nurturing of one's own or someone else's spiritual growth. you know. So that means if love is the willingness to extend, that means willingness is a choice, and to extend, that means it's effortful, you know. So if love is not by choice and it's not involved in effort, it's not love. So he talks about the idea of falling in love is not love, you know, that because it's like it's too easy. It's like you're like falling in love. It's not even by choice. Sometimes we fall in love with people that we actually don't really care about, you know, like and also it's always it's almost always motivated by sex, because we can love our friends and love our children and love our family, but we don't fall in love with them, you know. And a lot of times the people that we do fall in love with, we don't actually want that same sort of regimented, disciplined relationship. We want it to be easy and like ecstatic and passionate.
The whole thing of like love at first sight type of thing, like chemistry.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't know. We're getting into, you know, we're getting into the.
We love going deep.
We're getting into the meat of it, you know. But I do think we have been like, you know, sold to, right, like, because it's not sexy to talk about in songs and movies, like, you know, you gotta be your whole person first, and then you find another whole person, and then you have a healthy relationship. It's way sexier to be like, you're just a half. Find your other half. Live happily ever after.
Right. Blip, blip, blip,
you
blip.
know, yeah. Like, so, you know, to answer your question, like, I think the main thing that I'm taking away from this journey is that a lot of my own unhappiness was trying to avoid problems in my life, or avoid things that I know I need to work on, or just like avoiding them long enough to think that like, oh, it might even go away on its own, you know.
Right. There may be like the career success, or once you get that money, that fame, that will solve everything.
Yeah.
Type of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Versus now I feel like you're on this path where you're like, man, I already had some of that. I kind of tasted it, and that still didn't solve anything.
Yeah, I mean, like, I just feel like the longer I wait, the more I have to work to get to a place where I can move forward with like the most balanced perspective, you know.
Yeah, it's that healing journey though.
Yeah.
To what you're speaking about, because if you don't take the time to heal yourself or look at those parts of you, you're just going to keep having the same situation, same thing coming with different people, and until you learn that lesson,
it's like that karmic cycle.
It's just gonna keep going.
Yeah,
and
it's crazy.
I feel like some people, they rather just sweep things under the rug, or not look at those parts of themselves. It's also easier to point the finger. Oh no, it didn't work out because of them.
Yeah,
you're not holding yourself accountable for your stuff.
Exactly.
So it's really taking the time, like, and I love that you're going through a healing journey, because I'm still going through a healing journey, but we go through it.
It's a lifelong journey.
Forever,
it's
like till we transition. Like,
yeah.
So.
Wow.
Yeah, because like and then you know, if you're like, oh, it's a lifelong journey, people are like, oh, fuck that. That sounds like a lot of work, you know. But like it's like, who said it's supposed to be like
easy?
A freebie?
Yeah.
You know, like what's like is there anything else in life you can think of that's worthwhile, that's easy to attain? You know, like that's sustainable. I'm not talking about like Papa Molly and I'm, you know, and I'm happy, you know.
Yeah.
Like, that's 6 hours and then you crash.
Right. Yeah. And I'm realizing like now, like a lot of the problems and a lot of the pain that I go through is because in the past I wanted to avoid pain, you know. So eventually the neurosis that built on top of avoiding problems is more painful than if I had just gone through solving those problems, you know, the pain of solving those problems, you know, like, and then I would have even grown in that process, if, you know, like, but instead I avoided growth and I built, you know, problems that I had to deal with like later down the road.
It's kind of, I have this.
This session, this therapy session will be $200 because there's two of you.
I love that, you know. It's like it's the quote that I always say is like, you gotta have tea with your demons. You know, like with your shadows, like if you keep ignoring them, like they're gonna come knocking down on your door, and at some point it's like the universe, God, or the Tao will just burst in. It's like you can't keep them in the closet for too long. Like they're gonna show up whether you like it or not. So you might as well get to know them, understand them, and I think like loving yourself is really just like loving every part of you, your strengths, your the quote unquote weaknesses, your quote unquote shadow self. all that. Because once you get to do that, then it goes back to what you're saying. You become a whole person, and then you're attracting people who are also on their journey and they're more whole.
Right.
You know, I think it's so interesting that, like, I feel like it took heartbreak and losing love in order for you to find that love within yourself.
Yeah.
And that's been an ongoing journey right now for you too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I've had chances to grow in the past, but like I think something this time made me like take it, you know.
What was different about this time around?
I think you just like fuck up enough times. You gotta like you gotta like yeah. Hopefully it's just that, you know.
Yeah.
But like, you know, for example, like my stepfather, I love him to death, right? Like, you know, he took care of me better than a lot of fathers took care of their like biological sons. But you know, every time I go back to Boston and visit my mom and visit him, like I see that he is a 75-year-old kid. You know, like the way he reacts to things is like you know, he never grew up, you know. Yeah, it's like, and I feel like once you kind of once you start a journey, it's kind of like a aloneness in a way, you know, because you look around and you're like, man, like, yeah, like I feel like most of us are kind of at a bad place,
right?
And, you know, and we really do need more love and need more like awareness, you know.
Do you feel that responsibility as an artist?
No, as a human.
As a human.
Yeah, as a human being, you know. I feel like the fact that we are where we are today, it's already like an optimal case. Like given how bad some human beings can be, like the fact that we're all here today still, like, is pretty amazing.
It is, yeah.
You know, like, so I think the human responsibility, and Kendrick talks about this in an interview. They're like, he's like, oh yeah, people ask me what our purpose on earth is. He goes, you know, they want to make it like real deep and complicated, blah blah blah. He goes, I just think we're here. I think life is hard, and we're here to help each other through it.
Yeah,
you know.
He says the purpose is.
And
love.
I was like, I was like, that is the most simple but the best answer I've ever heard. Because there's people that's like, oh, like I'm here for like the purpose of this and that, you know, like they try to like ascribe these like large responsibilities to themselves, you know. But yeah, so I think like it's our responsibility to because like it's like genuine true love is like both ways, you know. Like if I care about your spiritual growth, like that means like that's because I care about mine, you know. Like yeah, it's like genuine love is a refilling thing, you know. Like it keeps replenishing, you know. Like so
love is also infinite.
Yeah,
it's unlimited. It's like what they say, like at least in certain faiths, like love is God.
Yeah,
God is love.
Yeah, and
if we have love, then we are also practicing and expressing like a godlike quality in a way.
Yeah, and doing that with the awareness and the humility of that, you know.
Yeah, I feel everything goes back to love.
Yeah,
everything.
But we just have a wrong. We've most of us and most of the time have been functioning on a wrong idea of what love is, and that's what's led us astray. You know, like backwards. You know, like when we talk about love being like something easy and effortless and just like, you know, someone would be like, oh yeah, I still love my ex. It's like, what does that mean? You know, like what about you and your ex relationship is requiring your effort? You know, like there's nothing, you know, like so like you don't still love, right? Maybe you never loved her, you know, like I just think we use the word really wrong. Right. You know, I think there's a lot more effort and choice behind it.
I mean, I do think as human beings we have free will.
Yeah.
And that allows us to make that choice of like even the choice to react. You can react with hatred, you can react with anger, you can react with forgiveness, with love. And that kind of then, I think every action and every choice that we make then kind of determines who we are as people.
Yeah.
It's like our character is defined by our actions. That's what we say. Like in
love is as love does. You know.
Right. Yeah. Damn. So then kind of like bringing it back to who you are and then your artistry now, right? Because then like if love is this action, if love is this choice, right? How are you actively and consciously?
Good fucking question.
I didn't even finish the question.
Good fucking question. We brought it all the way back.
You know, that's what we do here on this podcast.
It's like okay, well, kumbaya. Like, where is this going?
Yeah.
All right, so I think for me, this song, Great Wall of America, and the other songs I'm working on, is stuff that I care about, you know? Because no one is asking for a song called The Great Wall of America, or Model Minority Myth, or One Child Policy Theory, whatever, you know? And I actually had these songs, concepts in my notes for a long time. But it was a friend of mine who is managing me now, actually, Alex. Last year, he said, bro, you should, like, write about stuff that you care about. I was like, man, like, I feel like I want to, like, make some hits, make some bangers, you know? And because I knew that, like, there was a lot more work involved if I wanted to push something that I cared about. And I'm not just making music for, you know, at the basement for myself, right? Like, I'm making something to put it out to have a dialogue with the world.
Right.
But thinking about having a dialogue with the world is not the same as thinking about how the song will blow up or whatever, you know? So for me, like, the process of making these songs and putting these songs out, and being consistent with making visuals for it and putting those out regardless of how many likes and comments, and, you know, not hiding the likes, like leaving up the reel, not archiving them because it's not doing well, you know, not constantly checking the numbers and getting disappointed if it's not spiking up. You know, just like thinking about, like, the actual action of being, the actual active being of an artist instead of in relations to social media numbers of an artist. Right. So all of these to me is really the first time that I'm doing it, you know. In the past I might have pretended like I'm doing it. But yeah.
So I feel like now you have a lot more intention behind your music, and you're looking at it from even how you talked about the way you want to put out the music is so different from before of like, okay, I want to get some hits, I want to see the numbers, and now it's like, okay, regardless of what the numbers are, I'm still going to put this out. Yeah. Type of thing.
Yeah, but that's the thing, is like I've lost that conviction that what I have is valuable for a long time. And that's why I needed that number to validate that it was valuable.
Right.
But now I'm back to a point where, like, I realize, like, my love for myself made me realize what I have to say is valuable. So if I put it out there, that's my end of my job. You know, like, now I'm gonna do my best to push it to more people, but to what result, it's not going to take away my confidence again from, you know, the stuff that I put out.
Yes.
You know? And, like, I'd rather put out good stuff, leave it up, so when people come back and reference, they're like, wow, these are amazing stuff. How come there's only, like, 100 likes? Instead of, like, you know, putting out good stuff, and then because other people didn't validate it in the moment, taking it down, and now the whole storyline is gone, you know, like, out of fear. You know,
so you, like, got out of your head.
Got out of my head. Yeah, got out of head is like the easiest way to put it, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of artists, they stay in their head. Same thing like with you, with your acting.
Yeah.
Where you in your head thinking, like, if I don't do something great by this age, it's never gonna happen. And some people stay focused in that sense. But what you're speaking about is what a lot of people go through. Like, they want to post something and they're so focused on
numbers.
Oh, this isn't this, so let me remove it, instead of just showing up for you. Like, this is what I have. I'm being authentic.
Yeah.
This is what I have to say. This means something to me. I'm gonna put it out, and then let, you know, your tribe come to you. Your vibe attracts your tribe.
Right.
Yeah.
And you're not worried about, like, I think what's nice is that no matter what, once you put it out there, it's out there.
Yeah.
And as you keep building it, who's to say that maybe even a month from now somebody finds your work and now they have a whole catalog
Yeah.
that they could go through. And I think that's how you could really have real fans who genuinely can know who you are.
Yeah.
How do you, I guess,
Showing up for yourself.
yes.
That's a good way to
Yes.
put it, for sure.
Yeah.
How do you show up for yourself?
Uh,
I threw it in there just
I
bam.
think, I think I just listen to the intuition, you know. Whether that means like doing stuff that's not music related and not feeling guilty about it, you know,
Like hobbies or like
yeah, like I spend a lot of time reading, you know. A lot of times I feel guilty about that, but I've always had a desire to write outside of just like music, so I feel like all of it is just I feel like I'm just like a spring. I'm just like waiting to
shoot out.
yeah, you know.
Wow.
Like so I you know, I think me showing up for myself is just doing what I want to do. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
I think because that happens to me too, where sometimes I feel like I need to do something or I need to learn something, like a certain skill, or
Yeah.
in order to get ahead
Yeah.
in my career. And I might
But
not.
that makes
always-
sense though.
I mean, it makes sense, you know, but I still feel like what I love to hear is that, but it may not always enrich me.
Mm.
And if we're gonna go back to what you're saying about being an artist, is to live this enriched life, like.
Mm.
Viola Davis, like the actress, she talks about this a lot, where she says that I feel very grateful to be an actor because I get to celebrate what it means to live a life.
Mm.
And, you know, going back to what you're saying as an artist, like to live a life, you know, like it's not just going to be like, oh, well, I'm just only going to take this class just for the sake of my career. I mean, I think it's very logical to do that. You want to make more money, you want to get ahead. But I think what you're saying is that to not feel guilty about even reading.
Yeah.
You know, because reading books has then expanded your world.
Yeah.
Even to like, so now you're developing your vocabulary,
Mm-hmm.
and you're talking about books like Bell Hooks and like, the guy who wrote,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, Peck Scott.
yeah, Peck Scott, you know, like, so it's like that, you probably didn't have that knowledge like 10 years ago,
No.
for example, you know?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, even if somebody was handed that knowledge to me on a silver platter 10 years ago, I was not at a place to receive any of it.
Right.
You know, like,
That's important, what he just said. You have to be in
Yeah.
the place to receive it.
yeah, I feel like a lot of wisdom gets passed to us as we grow up from various sources. Until we have the experience to make sense of that wisdom, give it a context, it probably doesn't mean anything to us.
Right.
You know,
It's
Yeah.
like divine timing, you know, like
Yeah.
you got to be ready for certain things. You know?
Yeah.
Like I had the whole thing where I thought by the time I hit 30, I need to make it as an actor.
yeah, yeah.
Man, that shit fucked me up.
But think about how many
Really
like
did.
amazing actors would have lost if they gave up at 30.
Yeah.
You know, like,
I thought about
Right.
giving up a couple
Yeah.
times. Have you ever thought about giving up like
of
music?
course.
Yeah?
Yeah, like the other day. I woke up and like I like posted a fire reel and it wasn't doing well. I was like, what the fuck? Like, you know, like, and then like I literally said to myself, imagine letting social media stop me. You know, like imagine letting
Yes.
social media stop you from doing what you supposedly love doing.
See?
You know,
Got out
and
of
if
your head.
it stops you that easily, thank God you found out that's not what you're supposed to be doing. You know, like-
True. Dang.
So, you know, it's like back to you said, like perfect timing. I mean, that's you know, divine timing. I think like all timing, you know, is divine timing. You know,
All
like,
time is divine timing.
Yeah,
The time is now.
yeah, and then like, and you really, you know, get to. We all have the. You know, Kendrick says we all have the same 24. What you mad for? You know, like so.
Got 24 hours in a day.
Yeah, if you show up for yourself, like the timing will always be divine. You know? Yeah.
I love that.
Just show up.
Gotta show up. And you know, speaking of showing up and divine timing and the power of now, Eckhart Tolle, I think I would love to hear now
Yeah.
the song that you've been
Yeah,
talking
cool.
about.
Let's do it. Like, I mean, I performed I performed this once in Arizona, like in October. I never performed it, so. And
You
this
never,
is-
you never performed it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
we're
it
getting,
came out like 2 weeks ago. So.
I know. So we're getting
But
What
you know,
peak
this
is
is, you know, for people listening, this is the wrong version of the beat. But that's better
all
because
good.
now you get to listen to you know the recorded version that's out, and you get to have a different version.
Yeah, you can only hear this version
Here.
on Gemini Soulcast, which we love. My man Rick, are we able to?
Can I get headphones? Oh yeah.
Hey, yes. Are we to play the track, my friend?
Are y'all gonna be able to hear it? Like y'all probably need to rock headphones too, right?
You mean these headphones right here?
Yeah. Yeah. Woo. Yeah. Where you from? Hey. Hey, can you turn both up a little bit? Yeah. Tell me where you from. Yeah. That's good. Hey. Hey.
Gemini
tell me where you
Soulcast.
from. Hey. Look. Yeah, they say tell me where you really from. I ain't talking New York, I don't mean West Coast. I mean look at your skin, so where you really from? I ain't talking the West or in the Midwest. I mean look at the mind, so where you really from? Why is your English so good? Where did you learn that? Oh, your name is so different, where you really from? Oh, I see what you mean, I got the swag overseas, somewhere outside the Great Wall of America. Still trying to find a way through the Great Wall of America. Oh yeah, this beat's missing some stuff. I'm on way through the Great Wall of America. Yeah. What does it take to get over the Great Wall of America? Yeah. I'm a pretty white bitch and my only hope. Come here, let me marry ya. Dear America, see I just wanna be accepted as a son of ya. But lately I don't feel the love that you promised us. Do my slanted ass and yellow skin embarrass ya? Yeah, no they make fun of ya. I see them trying to assassinate your character, but they just hating cause they wishing they was one of us. I even vote for Trump just to prove I'm one of ya. Only 5'6", so I win now and got me a 4'5" and a 9 just to feel ready for war times. When them immigrants take over them shorelines, I'ma represent and defend to assure minds. Bald eagle on the leather crossing them borderlines. Who gon' stop me with the power that's authorized? Breeze through the world in the blink, and just to get home for them to call me a chink. Where you really from? I ain't talking New York, I don't mean West Coast. I mean look at your skin, so where you really from? I don't mean in the South or in the Midwest. I mean look at them eyes, so where you really from? Why is your English so good? Where did you learn that? Oh, your name is so different, where you really from? Oh, I see what you mean, I got my swag overseas, somewhere outside the Great Wall of America. Still trying to find a way through the Great Wall of America. 5 generations couldn't pass the Great Wall of America. What does it take to get over the Great Wall of America? Pretty white bitch, you're my only hope. Come here, let me marry ya. Almost 2 centuries ago. Oh yeah, so this version of the beat stops short, you know. So, but I'll
Wow.
Yeah. We can just end it
That
right
was
there.
amazing.
I would love to hear you keep. Do you want acapella? The
Almost
second
2
verse?
centuries ago, my people laid the tracks connecting the east and the west coast. Only right that I follow when they step, so I'm laying tracks connecting the east and the west globes. They was trying to erase our legacy, burying our destiny beneath the railroads. But what you sow, you gon' reap eventually. Anybody in my way, they getting bent like elbows. Don't ask me where I'm from, bitch. Fuck your labels. Matter of fact, move that ass and make some room at the table. Don't ask me where my family from, neither. Yeah, we Americans, but perpetual foreigners is how you gon' see us. Telling me to go back to my country. We've been here longer than you, honky. Somewhere along the line you got confused, dummy. See, I'm right where I'm supposed to be, actually. Smack the shit out of next motherfucker asking where you really from. You know? Yeah, I mean, like, you know, the song.
Give it
the
up,
song.
Bohan.
Thank you. The song is, you know, inspired by that real subtle but obviously xenophobic question of, but where you really from? Because unless you're white, you don't get that if you're white. But like white people move here from like Germany and fucking whatever all the time.
Right,
you know,
right.
like Chinese people have been here since 1800s.
Yep.
They built the railroads.
Yeah.
That's the backbone of this country. Then they were lynched, killed, kicked out of this country.
Right.
Then the only group of people by law banned from entering this country, the
Was
Chinese,
Chinese.
which is crazy.
Yeah.
The only group of people by law in the history of the U.S. that you can't enter because you're Chinese, you know.
Right.
And since then, we've been like fighting this upward battle to prove how American we are, you know, like, And yeah, so this song is just about like, you know, reminding us that look, like we belong at a table, like, you know, we have every right to feel like we belong. And yeah, I you know, I think and there's other ways people can look at this song too. And yeah.
I love the message behind it. You know,
Thanks, man.
That was amazing.
Like I think like obviously if I were to just break it down just bar by bar, like as a lyricist, it's fire.
Thanks.
You know, but I think what you're mentioning about the meaning behind it, I think it resonates with a lot of us. Those who are immigrants, those who get questioned where you're really from all the time. And I think a lot of us, especially Asian Americans, I feel there's always this like proving to be American or more accepted by others, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that, to me, this is like an anthem. This feels like an anthem type of song. Like I
like that.
Where like you have like, I can see it in like a revolution.
Yeah.
Like this like protest revolution where like the American flag is like kind of stripped away a little bit, it's like ripped up. And so I was like, rah! And it's, like,
I saw this video of like this guy going around asking like white people like, "Hey, where you from?" And it's like, "But where you really from?" And it's like, where's their like ancestors from? And they're like, "Colorado." They're like this. And it was so funny, like the way he turned it on them.
You kind of have to turn it on them because like otherwise they're always gonna look at us as other or foreign.
Yeah. I mean, also we look at ourselves as that too. You know, like I seen some comments online like in replying to the song from the Asian people being like, "What do you like? What am I listening to?" You know, I think the reality is there is a lot of Asian people that still just, you know, like want to ignore the Asian side of themselves by living in
whitewashed.
Yeah.
Or they
like they're like,
American.
oh, like it really doesn't really matter. You know, there's no like considering their own identity doesn't really help. You know, them move up in society. You know, so like this one might make them feel like uncomfortable or like it's something they don't want to think about. You know. They might think like, oh, there's no Great Wall for me at all. Like people never call me a chink, you know, like, and like, but like if, you know, if everyone is walking around calling someone a chink when they don't like them, you know, like it'd be way obvious and way easier to deal with, you know, than the subtleties of it. Yeah.
But that's the point is that like a lot of it has, people have gotten really smart with this. Like it's not going to just be blatant like, oh, I'm going to call you like, you know, whatever word that's derogatory, they'll find different ways to.
For sure, you're not getting that role, Rob. You're not getting that role that you're casting for. Yeah, that's how they do it.
Yeah,
you know,
instead of it being like, oh, because you are of this background, like.
Yeah. Nah, we didn't really like your audition. Oh, it's because he's fucking Chinese.
Yeah.
You know,
or like what I get on my side is, oh, we just couldn't find any Asian actors.
Yeah. Or in fact, oh, we have a perfect role for you. It's an Asian guy.
It's an Asian guy that's like an accent. That happened to me. I had to turn down a role that I thought was very racist. And because of that, I got dropped from an agency. From that.
Well, I feel like it's hard to find a balance.
It is, yeah.
You know, sometimes even finding a balance feels like the wrong thing to do.
But no matter what, though, I think we got to live in our truth.
Yeah.
It's kind of what you said like earlier on. It's like whether or not you're an artist or a human being, it's like you got to live that truth for yourself. And I don't ever think that we should not stray away from our moral compass and who we are in our soul.
Or your own like values.
Whatever that means for you, you know. But like I think a big part for a lot of Asian Americans is I think now we're in this moment where we're coming into more of that Asian part of us. Because growing up for me, like I look around, I felt so crazy because like I felt like I was the only one that actually liked being Asian.
Like, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. Yeah,
I have mad people around me who were like, "Rob, man, why are you so Asian?"
Like, I mean, why
you feel so proud? You know, like
I mean, they were definitely like going to high school parties. There were moments where I'm like, damn, the white boys are getting all the bitches. Like, you know, and like if there were moments in my life, no, for real, like if there were moments in my life as an insecure Chinese boy growing up in white America, like where I wanted to like not be Chinese, in those moments, you know, like I probably like in my head I was like, I probably never said it like I want to be a white boy, you know. But I like this is like my observation. Like, damn, all these white boys getting all the fucking pussy. That's why I started playing. That's why I started playing lacrosse. You know, like
Shit,
for real.
That's the whitest fighter you can think
Yeah, you know, like so,
Wow.
like for me, you know, like I'm not like for me, like I'm not putting this song out to like, yo, this song's speaking to all of our truths as Asian Americans, immigrants, whatever. Like it's something that I, you know, like
You're speaking your truth.
yeah, this song's been years in the making for my own self, you know, and yeah.
Do you feel like as an artist, you write songs to almost like give to you,
Yes.
like yourself, like maybe
Yeah.
the 2 year like
That's
version
how
of
I-
you 2 years ago, right?
That's how it's like. That's the best ideal way for me to talk about my own music is that it's me figuring like life out, you know, I'm like through writing and expressing myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
What's your
Yeah.
favorite song that you've written?
I
Do you
think
have one?
yeah, I think one of my favorite is this song called Possible from an album a few years ago.
Can you share that with us?
Yeah.
Do you-
So can I just rap it?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Sure.
Mama said, always talking about what mama said. Ironically, I never listened to what mama said. As a kid, matter of fact, if I did, I wouldn't be here at all. I'd probably still live in my mama crib. I'm just saying, as intelligent as mama is, I knew what was for me and school wasn't it. I knew what was for me and a suit wasn't it. I needed a role model, but he wasn't there. I mean, I had a father, but he wasn't shit. My stepdad is really who the hero is. Now, picture this, me and my mom, and a 6'2", sweetest dude, a head full of blonde, with a heart that's as pure as they come. And even though you didn't have to, you treated me like a son. And even though your body's not as healthy as it was, still you took that long flight overseas with us back to China. Come and see the family. You knew that meant the world to me and my whole family. And through the fighting and fussing, I kept pushing your buttons. I never seemed to learn nothing except lying and cussing. I said I was in class, but you knew that I wasn't. I was rhyming, buzzing from that shit I was puffing. You could have gotten mad and busting my head in, but instead, you were patient and you trusted my judgment. And instead, whoa, what you showed me was love, a lesson priceless, sent from the heavens above, truly a blessing. Never asked none from us. You gave so much, still you feel like it's not enough. And so I thank you. Thank you for the way that you are. And by the way, you one hell of a father.
Wow.
That's a verse from my dad, to my stepfather on Possible.
I love
Yeah.
that.
I got goosebumps.
That's
just listening to
amazing.
that.
Yeah, thank you.
Dang, that was deep.
So like for me, like my favorite songs is ones that like I write and I'm like, wow, I think I love my stepdad. You know, like that figure like after writing that, I had a new perspective.
It's
Yeah.
almost like you writing a song is that like therapeutic session for you, and by the time you finish a song, you gain this new awareness that of yourself.
Cause I'm not like when I'm sitting down and write it, it's not like I know what's right what I'm coming to write. You
Right.
know, like so it's like unfolding in real time.
Mm.
And it's like you said, it's like a conversation that I'm having with, you know,
Like with yourself,
whatever.
right?
Yeah, with
Like,
myself.
Man,
Yeah.
I've heard you perform this song. I've listened to this song. I've heard you perform it live. And just hearing you do it now, like without the beat, without any backing track, without an audience, like just hearing you do it right here, I felt even more of who you are, the authentic you, and I could feel that love and like where your perspective is on this. So
Thanks, man.
oof.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess because the subject matter is quite intimate, like this environment probably like, you know,
Yeah.
made it feel like that even more.
Damn.
So, yeah.
Beautiful song.
Thanks, man. Thank you. I'm proud of that one.
Yeah.
I'm not proud of a lot of my songs, but I'm proud of that. Yeah.
It's amazing though, because even us doing Gemini Soulcast and hey, you know, told Rob, right? Like we were like, we want to interview people.
Right.
And then his first thing, I have my favorite, which I'm not gonna say on here, but
Yeah.
I'll tell you after.
Yeah.
But
Right.
for him, he was like, I want to have Bohan Phoenix.
Yeah.
And I said, who's Bohan Phoenix, right?
Right.
And he goes, oh, let me show you who Bohan Phoenix is.
Yeah.
And in listening to your music, because I had never listened to your music, and listening, even today, when we met at the train, I was listening to your music. And I was just, I was like, yo, this guy is so talented.
Right.
It, like, I love like the storytelling. I want
Yeah.
to say, or like the way, even that, like just listening to that, I could picture it in my mind. And I feel that you doing it that way, like, just keep doing your storytelling. That's really what I'm trying to say too. Like,
Thank you. Yeah.
it's very inspiring.
Yeah.
And to me, I look at you as somebody who is doing that. Like, you're inspiring, and you don't get a lot of artists right now that are starting and all that do the storytelling
Right.
like that. It brings me back to, you know, to Tupac. It brings me back to like the 90s, because I
90s
love
rap.
90s hip hop.
Yeah.
So for me, it's always about that. Like when you share pieces of yourself. So that I feel like you doing, you know, whatever it is that your intention is moving forward, or however you want to do things, just don't lose sight of that.
Thank you.
Yeah, because
Thank
that's
you.
a gem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are gems.
Appreciate
right there.
you.
Like, as you said, right? It's through our own experiences that we then create the art form, and then we kind of like give it to others, and after that, it's like, okay, well, now it's out of my hands. Like,
Yeah.
But I always find it so interesting how I could listen to a song and I might not be in that. I might not have lived that person's background.
Yeah.
Same thing with you, with like Eminem or with Pac, but you resonate so much with that.
Yeah. There's like this really awesome quote. It's like the more personal, the more universal.
Yes.
You know, and like I just think that's so true.
Have you had people come up to you, whether it's like after a show or they've seen you pass by, and you know they talk about your music and the impact that it's had on them?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been people that, you know, have felt the same sentiments that I felt, but I happen to have the tool of music to put it out there, you know, and then they picked up on something that we both already knew, you know. I think a lot of sentiments I express is in really a lot of us, you know. But unless you have a mirror, unless someone holds up a mirror to be like, yo, like, you know, like, you're not crazy, because I feel the same way too, you know. So yeah, I used to like, I mean, like, to answer your question, there was like times where people like come up and like, you know, for my song 3 Days in Chengdu, there's been a couple of times people would come up and they're crying, you know. And when I was younger, I was like, man, I'm ill. Look what my music has done, you know. Like, not like intentionally, but like in my back of my mind, I'm like, man, like, this is cool, you know. Like, I'm done this.
Strokes your ego.
Yeah, strokes the ego, you know. But I think I don't think about it like that anymore. I don't think of it as something that like I am doing that's doing that, you know. Yeah.
Because your perspective and your intention has changed.
Yeah.
With your music and with your artistry.
Yeah, but it's also a fact, you know. Like, I think it requires participation on the other person's end. So it requires them to have experience and whatever. So what I'm doing is only half of it, you know.
Right. Them experiencing something that allows them to then really resonate with what your message has been.
Right.
So moving forward, right, you just dropped this new project right here.
Yeah. Well, a new song.
You dropped a new single,
new
song, Great Wall of China. I mean, Great Wall of America.
Yeah.
And
by the way, when I sent it to the Chinese distribution platforms to upload, they were like, you should upload this on your own through the back end. Like, the imagery of the Great Wall of America is incorrect and potentially offensive. So
what?
Yeah. So like,
That's
they didn't
crazy.
want to bear the responsibility of uploading that to the internet in China. So I did it on my own.
Wow.
I mean, like, if anything, it's a critique of America, you know. So China, you should be, you know.
Hey, that's China. You better listen up, big brother. Daga, you better listen up right here, you know.
But yeah.
Yeah, so I mean that could be a whole separate conversation about China.
We don't need to go in there. I love
government
China.
and politics.
I love China. You
China number one. Oh my God.
My family. But like, you know, I'll say something really quick. Like, it is hard for me to pick which side I want to, like, you know, live and raise a kid in the future, because I do see
have you thought about
see the positive on both sides. Yeah, of course. I think about it all the time, but you know, but I think I consider that as like a luxury, you know.
Having choice.
Yeah, it's like a good problem to have.
So because I know you kind of been moving around a little bit here. You were in China like not too long ago too.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Yeah, I just
and now
moved
you're
back in
back.
December.
Yeah.
I was out there for like 14 months, hanging out with my grandfather and my family.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And now you see, like, okay, now you're looking at the lifestyle. Like, what would you say? And this is nothing related to like music per se, but just, you know, for
Yeah.
yourself, like, what do you see like is a big difference in your experience, like living in the U.S. versus living in China?
I mean, 1 month rent in New York is 10-month rent in China, so that's like a big difference. That kind of sucks coming back. Yeah, I mean, I think the quality of life in China is better. In terms of costs, in terms of the amount of food, the kind of food I like. Also, like, you know, it says something to live in a country where there's no multiple races and, you know, like, you know, America is like, you know, black, white, Asian, Spanish, you know. So in a country where it's mostly Chinese people, of course, there's like the ethnicities that are, you know, that go through their own struggles within China.
Right.
But yeah, I find generally living in China to be a breath of fresh air, away from the politics that's forced down your throat in America, away from having to navigate between, if I do this, is this considerate of the black community, the white community, the Spanish community? Like, what about just myself? You know? So that's like, I like that. And also, people in China are not as, like, as a society, not as like self-conscious of aware and like worried about other people like thinking about them in like a, you know, day-to-day basis like that. Like, they want money, you know, they want people to think they have money.
Right,
but
right.
they're not like out here thinking about like, oh man, does that person think I'm like cute, or like, you know, this is, we're walking out here, you walk into a bar, if you're, you know, like a typical guy, you're probably like looking around to see who's looking at you, you know, like, you know what I mean, like, you know, like, you're very like aware that people might be looking at you. Like, there's none of that energy out there.
Wow.
Yeah. But that also results in stuff like you may be in the grocery store and then somebody just reach right in front of your face to grab something like
There's
that.
no personal space.
Right. But they don't take that personally neither.
That's the
you
thing,
know,
yeah.
like,
It just is.
yeah. So it is, you know, give or takes.
Safety wise, probably also.
No guns.
Yeah.
You know, like my friend Ralph, who toured with me, he's like this big Haitian dude, you know. We were walking around Shanghai and we saw like this dude tussling with the police, and they tussle, they're on the ground tussling, they get up, they like brush up, "Tony Ma," and they like curse each other back and forth, and then they just walk away. He goes,
With the cops?
Yeah. He
What
goes,
the fuck?
You know, like, I mean, like, you know, it's like, so there's like aspects like that. Yeah.
Wow. That's a very different.
But there's obviously certain things you can't do in China.
Of
You
course,
cannot
yeah.
do, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I do think that it's always interesting to hear people's perspective. I'm as Chinese American, like I've been back a couple of times, and it's always been that same thing where it's like I'm always gonna look at it a little bit differently than like an American from like Kansas or something. I feel like nowadays there's a lot more people in America who are, I guess you could say, waking up to the outside world, and they're seeing that China isn't just like some like third world or some like super communist, like I control everything type of country. And that there's a lot, like, because of, you know, Red Note, Xiaohongshu, and like TikTok. I think people are slowly starting to see, oh wait, like China, they also have like infrastructure.
China looks crazy lit.
Yeah, it looks
like,
crazy lit.
Yeah.
Like there's like a whole city built on like renewable energy or built on the water. Like I don't think they ever would have thought that that's even a possibility.
I think that also comes with like the disillusionment of realizing that America isn't what it's been sold to us too. You know, I think in recent years, even like people that has always been pro-America, like really, you know, like they're starting to realize, oh shit, like, you know. So I think that coupled with more access to seeing like what outside is like, people are like, oh, yeah. I mean, even for myself too. Like when I moved back to China in 2017, before that, every year I go back and see my family. But it was with like, you know, once I step outside of the family bubble and I started seeing like China for what it is, I'm like, oh shit, you know. And so I moved. That's why I moved back in 2017. You know.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, who knows? I mean, like, in the next few years or so, you might have that kid, and then you're gonna be like, I gotta figure out where I want to live.
Have that kid in the next few years? What the fuck are you talking about, Rob?
You never know.
Hopefully not.
You never know. You never know, man.
That's what my mom says. My mom's like, the other day, like a couple months ago, my mom's like, and she said this in Chinese, but I go in something like, I've thought it through. I'm okay that you don't want to get married now. Which is not. I never said I don't want to get married. She just assumed that because I haven't. Like.
Right.
So, but just find someone and have some kids, and like you don't even have to raise them. I'll help you raise the kids. I'm like, Mom, where am I gonna find somebody not marrying me to have some kids, and they don't even want the kids? Just like let you raise the kid. Like, what are you talking about? You haven't thought it through at all.
I thought about it, Bohan. Like, this is gonna be the best scenario for you. Like,
我想通了,
My goodness, man, it's been so enriching to just have you on our podcast. Like,
Thank you.
What's next for you, man?
Just consistency. Yeah. I've always been like really proud of being persistent, like never like stop like chasing what I love to do. Cause there was a lot of people, when I first got to New York and started making music and making the rounds at all, Pyramid Club, New Eureka and Apollo, like, that were people that was so much nicer than I was. They're just like so nice. Shout out my boy Duzzle, But a lot of people, like, life just like came in the way, and they found that they had to stop, So I've always been grateful that I have been persistent. But I realized, like, over the years, while I've been persistent, within these years, there was no consistency. So if you're like persistent without consistency, you're almost like crazy. You're like, I think this will happen and I'm going to keep going. It's going to happen. But if you don't actually do the work, you're like kind of crazy, So this is something that I realized in the last like year or so. I'm like, whoa, okay. So that's kind of like what's next. Yeah.
Are we going to expect a new song?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not sure when. I mean, I have a bunch of the songs are ready to go.
Right.
Yeah, the songs are ready to go. Yeah.
Is there anything you're trying to manifest in the year of the snake?
Year of the snake. So this is my mom's cycle year. So she's born in year of the snake. So
so this is her year.
This is her year. And this giant snake.
Damn, that's a beautiful tag. Love that.
Yeah, I mean consistency. I'm gonna keep it like real focused. Yeah, consistency.
Consistency, like your posts, like Instagram Reels, TikTok, like
just like showing up for myself, right? Yeah, like being about my business, right? If I'm a musician, if I'm an artist, showing up, whether that's reels, music, releasing stuff,
shows and things like that.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to put some together for June in New York.
Nice.
Oh. Yeah.
I want to go to that.
Yeah. Keep us posted on.
I'm like, I want to go to that.
I got like a surprise in the bag too for my next live show. Like,
okay.
And yeah.
We gotta keep the hype going on for that one.
Yeah.
Wow. I love that.
In the meantime, just anybody that's listening, push that Great Wall of America for your boy.
All right.
Yeah.
Everybody here who's listening to Gemini Soulcast, go check out Bohan Phoenix. Follow him at Bohan Phoenix. Listen to the song Great Wall of America. He's going to be dropping a lot more singles as well as these months progress. My question for you before we wrap things up is that, like, if there's anything that you want to say to that 10-year-old Bohan, what message will you give him?
Man, that you're loved. Yeah, you're loved. Yeah.
That's a great one. That's a great message.
Simple but powerful.
Every 10-year-old should hear that.
Yeah, that you're loved.
Yeah.
If there's any final things you want to say to the world, what do you want to say to the world?
Yeah, I think just don't avoid. If there's a crossroad and one path is the easy path and one path is the harder path, try to always pick the harder path, because the easy path will always be there if you can't handle it. But most of the time, you'll find that you have more strength than you were know of, and you could take the harder path. And then once you do that enough times, you'll never even see the easy path. You just take the hard path always. So
I love that.
that's something to myself as well.
Wow.
A reminder to self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much.
Thank y'all
for being
Thank
on
y'all.
here with us. Honestly, like
This has been
was
great for me.
Yeah. We got a whole musical performance here.
Hey.
No, you have a new
That's-
fan here.
Yeah, acapella. We got to talk about like love. We talk about grace.
Like like the word fan always like makes me uncomfortable, right? it does, right? Like, but I just want to say this one thing, right? Like,
Yeah.
Kanye has said a lot of crazy shit, right?
Yeah.
He's also said some stuff that's worth considering. And one thing that he said was, if you like my music, you don't like me. You like you, because you're seeing something about yourself in what I'm doing. Like, so if you're a fan of me, that means you're a fan of yourself.
And I am.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
hey.
I love that.
Yeah.
Damn. Thank you so much for being on here. And folks, thank everybody for listening to the one and only podcast here. Once again, my name is Rob.
My name is Sin.
And you
this
just
is
listened to
Gemini
Gemini Soulcast.